So hi, my name is Keith Gellhorn. I'm the founder and Chief Empowerment Officer at ADDvocacy. What we do is we coach neurodivergent youth and adults who live with ADHD, learning disabilities, autism, anxiety, and any co-occurring mental health or physical health challenge that impacts executive functioning. So our clients are mainly students in high school. We have we start in high school, then we have a post-secondary transition program. We coach post-secondary students, and actually as of August 1st, we have 100% funding for post-secondary students who are coming through student loans. So that's been a huge boost in business for us. Then as they're all coming out of post-secondary, I transition them into Nova Scotia Works. One of the bigger locations that we go to is TEAM Work Cooperative in the Workbridge, which we'll talk about here in a bit. And they help with like resume and cover letter and all that. And we just help with the big transition of coming out of school and going into that career side of things, and help with more around the executive functioning side of things. We also help entrepreneurs as well, or neurodivergent entrepreneurs, which is what brings us to the group today, and also just people in career and life transition. And I'm going to introduce you to Lee to introduce herself. She's an integral role of this thing, and we'll go from there. And then afterwards, I'm going to introduce Hannah. She's from the Go-3D program, which is run kind of through TEAM Work Cooperative, but she's going to explain it all. It's just an entrepreneurship startup program for entrepreneurs with disabilities here in Nova Scotia. So Lee, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Keith. Hello, everybody. My name's Lee Nicholas, and I'm a coach and an artist and an entrepreneur, and in no particular order. I, like Keith said, am helping him co-host this group, and I'm loving it as well. Keith has an interesting way of doing things. He loves to do things consistently all the time, and I'm not that kind of person, but he's been keeping me in tow with this once a week, and it's been super beneficial and super helpful. And I've noticed that also with the people in the group. So I bring an aspect of coaching which is somewhat unique, and at least it's been my experience. I haven't come across anybody else in this area doing this kind of coaching. And so the coaching that I'm bringing is a little different in that it's called something like the 3 principles. And I stumbled across it when I was becoming a coach. And really, for me, what it helps me do is it helps me understand how we work as human beings. And I think sharing that with people is very empowering, and I've seen it change lives. And I'm loving every minute of it. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Lee. Next, I'll have you introduce yourself, Hannah, and really interesting to hear more about this, the Go-3D program, and what exactly you guys are offering. So have at her.
Have at her. Am I talking about the program right now?
Well, introduce yourself and basically what you've done with teamwork and how you got into Go-3D. Tell us with the whole bit.
Sounds good. Well, hello, folks. I know half of you, or met some of you even in passing, and a few from my career as a case manager. So my name is Hannah. I am the program coordinator of the Go-3D project, which is a demonstration project right now through TEAM Work Cooperative and Career Connections, who is another Nova Scotia Work Center down in the New Glasgow area. And I see a few participants of the program from that area on the call. So it's always great to see this network expanding, which is always exciting. Myself, I've actually been an employee of TEAM Work Cooperative now for over 6 years. So I've had many different hats and roles, and I've worked in disability space for over 20 years, from children to adults. So, I've learned a lot over the years, and working with folks on the ADHD and autism spectrum, all kinds of cross disabilities, has been my passion for helping others move forward in their life and moving towards a career that is meaningful. And I truly believe everybody has a place, and will find that place with the right support. So it's nice to see so many like-minded folks here, and Keith and Lee, the driving force around this group. So it's good to see. The Go-3D program is a demonstration project, and I have some of you folks in that project right now. There is 2 streams. One is a funded program for 52 weeks to really help new startups get started. And, through business training, coaching, subject matter experts, we're trying to provide a program that offers a lot of different opportunities to help grow a business. And all these folks have identified with disability because it is a disability program. The province has funded this program very well to help lift people into a space that makes that feasible. It's not always easy to start a business if you don't have a job or have income coming in. So hopefully, and we're seeing the benefits of that coming to fruition as we see some people opening their businesses. And we have an event coming up next Thursday in support of TEAM, which is also Disability Employment Awareness Month, to help celebrate some of those businesses opening and just being in a space to celebrate disability. We also help business owners who are currently open. It's a bit of a different stream, not tied to us in any particular way other than the resources you might want to access. And that is for current business owners. And again, focus is disability and really supporting people where they're at. So our program really does try to be flexible, offer, it doesn't always have to be a linear, but I'm with Keith on, I'm probably more like you, Keith. I like things like Monday's this, Tuesday's this. So I try to, we have a program that kind of aligns with what might happen on certain days just to help with routine and some of those organizational things. So we have another year in this project. If all goes well, we might see this roll out across the rest of the province. So that's our goal. And it is a very unique project in this space. And, Keith, you noted you were niche. We love to work together because we know that's just not true, right? There's lots of folks out there that need the support, and specifically if you are identifying with some barriers around it, right? So,
Hannah, can you talk about just the newer part of the program, the startup stream? Can you just talk about some of the businesses that you are seeing coming through, some of the challenges that people are having, and then any wins that you've seen so far? I know there's a baker I think I saw that launched. So yeah, can you just share some of the things that are going on? That'd be great.
I've got way too many wins and successes to share in half an hour. I could go on.
Of course, yeah.
No, it's been really incredible, and I'm just sitting here feeling rather very grateful to see some folks who have worked with Teamwork and you, Keith, for so many years and being in this space. But being a new program, obviously that's a challenge in itself because this hasn't been done before. But we've relied on our partners in SEED and CBDC to bring some of that business knowledge to our program, but you can't beat the knowledge that comes from our partners and some of the work that we've done in disability and how to support people. And that for me is first and foremost in this program, which is where I'm seeing a lot of success in folks who have had challenges starting off trying to figure out what path in life they are to be taking. And entrepreneurship is it's a very creative field. It's a hard field, as I hear many of you, and I'm not sure I could take that on. I've been in that space a little bit here and there, but I commend you all for taking that journey. It's not an easy one. But we have all kinds of different types of businesses. We have 53 active people in this program that started as early as last March. And we just onboarded our last group for this demonstration anyway, in September. So we have 53 active participants starting up new businesses, all identifying with disability. And just if you put on your thinking hat for a minute, what that might mean to the impact of our labor market, the Nova Scotia economy, when we start to see people with disabilities who are inclusive and are taking that accessibility and moving it forward into the labor market, hiring other people with disabilities, as we know, have been the challenge for a lot of folks attaching to the labor market, right? One of the highest groups that are unemployed in our country. So that's a goal success after the project, of course, but I'm already starting to see that happen. We have a Christmas store that opened up in New Glasgow. We have another individual. Our event next week, we have 8 vendors that are coming. Preserves, very small businesses to the e-commerce, preserves, photography, quite a few e-commerce businesses, social media, the bee business, cloning queen bees. Who knew? I learned a lot there. Virtual dojo, life coaching, counseling, you name it. No ADHD coaches, no competition, Keith. Some life coaching, maybe dabbling in that, but it's really exciting. Cafe, I'm trying to look at who's on the call here. Game design, the spectrum. I see, we actually have quite the film crew in our group, in our new startups, but also in the continuous. So there is an eclectic group forming there on their own that might change the world of film and arts in our local Nova Scotia economy. And a few horror fans, which I am a horror fan, so I'm excited to see some of their stuff. So as you can see, Keith, I mean, it's just all over the place, cross disabilities, multiple barriers. But what I find has been the biggest success that I've seen, and it's not easy, everybody has their own personalities and their own challenges, is the support on the wellness, the balance of being an entrepreneur and helping people with those wins and challenges weekly is really imperative. But I've seen people grow and really start to come out of their shells. And that's not an easy thing in today's world, because the world is a little chaotic and unwell. We still deal with a lot of challenges from COVID, but this is really inspirational, and not to put that super high hat of positivity, but there's something really to be said about this, and it'll serve you all well in your future businesses. My biggest success that I've seen.
Awesome. Yeah. So some of the things that come up for entrepreneurship is, especially when you are neurodivergent or have a disability, is the dealing with the mental game of it all. The mental game, and then also the process, right? So for those of us who struggle with executive functioning, if you don't know what that means, it's basically your ability to set a goal or a task and end a goal or a task and all the pieces in between. So perfect one that comes up every time in all these self-employment benefits type programs is business plan and financials. Those two things, which is honestly, paperwork to me is like kryptonite to Superman, right? It's the hardest freaking thing you're ever going to have to do. And the other thing is that because a lot of us kind of live in the moment, we're not really thinking about tomorrow. We can't remember what happened yesterday. We're just thinking about today. We're like, what's the point of even doing this stupid thing? Because we're not going to follow it anyways, right? And there is a reason why you should follow it, because if you don't have a goal and something to shoot for, if you don't know where you're going and have that clearly defined, you'll never know if you've got there or not. And that's something that I made the mistake of early on, ironically, out of necessity. I had no intentions of starting my business the way I did. I was a plumber. I had a back injury. I got diagnosed with depression and anxiety and ADHD and learning disabilities and processing disorder, all this stuff when I was 34, and did a bunch of counseling. It was all fantastic. And then I got to a point in my life where if you want me to recite the cognitive behavioral therapy journal, I could do it for you 1,000 times over. I know every cognitive distortion there is, but it wasn't helping anymore. It was just like, I'm probably the most self-aware person, yet I still struggle in taking the next step. And so when I went back to my clinical social worker asking for supports with that, I was like, who can help with that? And she said, well, nobody. And then she also said, hey, it sounds like you're getting better. See ya, right? Like, we're kicking you out of this program, right? So the clinical side of things, when you're broken and need help, it's fantastic for that. But if you're in a good spot, the first person that's going to say, peace out, we're going to go find somebody else is broken, are clinicians, right? So off I sent looking for somebody else to help. So the only person that I was referred to was a psychiatrist who I phoned and left a message for once. They phoned me back a year later, got my answer machine. I called them back and all I got was their answer machine for the rest of the time. So I'm like, forget this. I found an ADHD support group in 2010, went to that, sat in a group like this, and realized, especially it wasn't just ADHD. All of us that are in here, we may have a primary diagnosis, but I guarantee all of us have other stuff going on, whether it's officially diagnosed or not. That anxiety and depression game is fierce. And it's just the fluctuations of our moods. So if you catch us, this is the interesting thing, you catch us on a good day, I'm currently on a high. So I'm currently zinging, I'm landing business left, right, and center. Like I am pooping rainbows is what I essentially say. 2 months ago, though, I couldn't get out of my own head to save my damn life. This is when we're getting set up for all our post-secondary students. I had way more students than I expected, which is usually a good thing. You say, oh, business is great, but I couldn't handle it all. And over the years, I've always wanted to hire a like an office manager, executive assistant, but I didn't have the money to do it. I finally got in the position last year to get into a spot to do it. And then a particular funder things came up where I lost a third of my income like that overnight. So this is one thing, you got to diversify your income, is a very specific thing to do. So instead of giving up, which I was really tore up about at the time, I just started pursuing other things. So I'm like, who else can I get involved with? So I started bouncing around and figure out where I'm at now. And as a matter of fact, I just got a text message back from the person who I now can hire fully independently. She's confirming today at 4:30, and I will have an office manager and a new group coaching lead. So I'm super stoked on that. That's after 11 years I was finally off. If I could do things over again, I've said this to Hannah before, actually, if I could do anything, Teamwork and the crew should start a program for training virtual assistants to come out and give all of us like 8 hours. If all of us had a day a week of assistance, I guarantee us all could take off, right? But we try to do it all on our own. And when you're the salesperson, the social media person, doing the business development, managing people and everything else, like it's just bananas to try to manage it all. And that's the part that a lot of us don't see. We're future blind, right? We don't see that coming up. Anyways, so the long and the short was the reason why I ended up doing this coaching stuff is that the clinical system wasn't there. The guy that I met at that at this support group basically told me, like, I was really excited to meet him, and he's like, man, you don't want to get into it. People don't show up. They don't pay their bills. He was a really cynical dude, right? And I was like, wow, that was really motivating, my friend. And I was like, I could do this 1,000 times better than you. So I started looking down in the States, found all these coaches. In Canada, at the time, there's only 50. In east of Ontario, there are none. I decided to go back to school to be a clinical social worker and do my coaching school at night, but the coaching school was all on the East Coast, and the stuff that I wanted to do at home back in BC wasn't going to work. So I literally blindly hopped on a plane, flew out here, went back to NSCC up at the Truro campus and studied disabilities supports and services. I started running an ADHD support group, and within a month realized there's a whole bunch of people with mental health and other physical challenges as well that were kind of coming. And I didn't realize at the time there was actually as much of a link as there actually is between all of us. So I brought in like the Canadian Mental Health Association. They were running where we co-facilitating a bi-weekly group. I was doing my ADHD thing. And then I got my first client just haphazardly through Dalhousie. They didn't need a tutor. They didn't need a therapist. They asked for a coach, and I was the only one doing it in the province. And that's how it all started. So literally, they said, how do we pay you? And I'm like, I don't know. Right. And what do we pay you? And like, I don't know. Like what, like I'm learning from coaching school. Like, I mean, in the States, it's a whole nother level, right? The coaches down there charge between $250 to $500 an hour. So I said, I don't know, like $100 an hour. And my friend he's actually done some coaching for me too. Her name's Joy LaRusick. She actually runs the Achieve program out of NSCC for helping people with disabilities, but she used to be the disability resource facilitator and one of my teachers. But she's like, you know, Keith, you are in Nova Scotia. $100 an hour is never going to happen, but we can get you 50. And I'm like, $50 an hour, that's pretty damn good. I was making 32 as a plumber. $50 is amazing. And then ironically, when I did get introduced eventually to TEAM Work, I met a fabulous guy named Dave Waring. He used to be the funding manager, now runs the mentorability program. And I came in all gung ho. I was like, $50 an hour. He's like, 50? Like the lowest paid consultant out there is 100. I was like, $100 an hour, like to tell my story. This is awesome, right? And so anyways, through relationship building is how I was able to build this stuff up. I don't spend a cent on advertising. I run my whole business off Google. I have a coaching program. I have QuickBooks, which I wish I never got. Stick with Wave. It's free. So if you guys are sussing that out, Wave apps, I could teach somebody how to use Wave apps in 20 minutes. Unfortunately, the guy that I brought in who thought, hey, we're going to be at this $30 million company and wanted to screw me over anyways, that guy switched me over to QuickBooks. Long story short, though, that's basically what the whole thing runs off. And I do my work from like 9 to 5, and then I do my social media at night. But now I've got other people like Kendra's floating around in here. She's taken an interest in doing social media. She does all my copy. She's written 2 books for me in the last 6 months, whole bunch of stuff. And I wanted to mention that too for the entrepreneurs that are coming up. One of the things that I figured out really early was funding and how to access it, because I was like, I knew as a student, I had no extra money to pay for anything. So why would I expect another student or another person to be able to do this? I'd be able to pay out of pocket. So I figured out the students early on. Then I moved into the career transition. Then I figured out the entrepreneurs. And when I started working with the entrepreneurs, I was funded by the predecessor of the Go-3D program, which was the Entrepreneurs with Disability Network. I won Entrepreneur of the Year through there years ago, joined their board of directors, and they said, hey, we got somebody down at Seed. What can we get for $200? And I was like, well, you can get 2 hours with me. So I went down and helped her, and immediately with organization time management, because that was what was the killer. So I actually took some of the $200 and I bought a binder and I got an agenda. So this thing called a passion planner that I use all the time. And sat her down, created a schedule, some routine, and we set out structure and checkpoints like, okay, this week you're going to do like customer discovery. And then how did it go? Well, it went crap. It didn't get anything done. Okay, well, let's rejig why that didn't get done, which is basically challenging your mindset, right? She had this big wall of awful, essentially, like they call it, that why she couldn't get out and do it. Well, let's just challenge it and weed it back. But anyways, 2 hours turned into 80 within 2 weeks because everybody else in there was needing all this extra help. And then at the end, I went to put my invoice in to Seed. I had no idea what I was doing, right? I'm like, here you go. Who's paying this? And like, well, we don't have any money. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And they said, I was like, well, who funds you? And that's how I got up to the province and got that all sorted out. So anyways, I just want to share a bit of my entrepreneurial journey with that. But like I said, I go up and down like a freaking yo-yo, right? When I'm on my highs, I kill it. When I'm on my lows, I still do my work, right? I still got to get things done, but I definitely rely heavier on my coaches. So I have a personal coach, which is Lee. I have a business coach, which is a guy that I recruited that I did this funding thing about, and he made about $500,000 off me off a little presentation I did in a half an hour. And now he's helping me for quote unquote free, but I think I've done all right for him in the whole grand scheme of things, and go from there. So Lee, why don't you talk a little bit about if you're still kicking around. Can you talk a little bit about the mindset side of coaching and how you help? So I call Lee like the ADHD or the mental health whisperer, because she's surrounded by people with ADHD. Her wife has it, I have it, all her friends have it, and she's just kind of sits in the middle and can kind of calm us down and help us create some pause so we can get to the point of making logical decisions. I can't make a logical decision when my head's ripping, aka what happened for the first 45 minutes of this call. So Lee, if you're there, can you talk about the principles and how that all comes to be?
Sure, Keith. So I'm just, I'll start in by adding to what you were saying earlier about what this program offers to you and I and all our original people in the group. And what I think what I think is important to say about that is that it's not just being an entrepreneur, it's living your life. And it's how to integrate that into being an entrepreneur, because as much as we'd like to separate professional and personal, it's just not possible when you're living and breathing your business day in and day out and getting started. So we run into the overlap of personal and professional. And that's what where my passion lies. And that's what I love to talk about. And I love to help people start to see how, simply put, it's all the same. It's all the same. There really isn't any difference or any delineation between the two. When we face a personal problem versus a professional problem, it really is the same thing. So what I have stumbled across is called the 3 principles, and the 3 principles are quite simply mind, thought, and consciousness. And all that points us towards is how we work as human beings. And when we start to understand how we work as human beings, operating this life we live becomes that much easier. The roller coaster that Keith described, that his ups and downs, and the ones that we all relate to, those ups and downs, that roller coaster of life, that is actually where the owner's manual comes in, and how it helps us understand that that's a natural process. Being upset, being happy, being frustrated, being any emotion, and all of the emotions that we face on a daily basis is part of life. That is part of who we are. That's part of living the world. So I'm not telling you anything you haven't already heard, but what I can do, and what I love to do, is help remind you what you already know about that. And what you already know about that is that you have within you the innate resiliency, the innate wisdom that can help you overcome any challenge that you face. And that's what I do with the 3 principles. I try and help people to understand how we operate as a human being, so that the operation, our day-to-day operations, kind of get smoothed out. And that roller coaster becomes less of an upset when we're down, when we're in the downs, or when we're in the highs. It becomes less of an issue once we start to see it for what it is. And what it is it's part of life. It's part of nature. It's part of the way that we work as human beings.
I appreciate you sharing that. I also want to give two other little shout outs here. So another thing that's come up for me. So even though I coach around this, I still have my own struggles with my structure. So coming back to that executive function, I started and then I went on a tangent. Weird, right? But coming back to the executive function. So it's everything to do with starting a goal and ending a goal and all the pieces in between. So say it is starting a business plan, for example. So we got to get organized, right? We got to get all the pieces together. Conditions have to be perfect, right? We got to manage our time. We have to be motivated to do it, right? So motivation is a huge topic as of late. Motivation and focus. I just can't focus. We can't focus because, again, if you don't know where you're going, how are you get focused to get to where you're at, right? So if you don't have at least some sort of a clearly defined goal, you're not going to figure out how you're getting there. It's funny. It used to always get me in trouble at TEAM Work Cooperative because I would write on my reports like, I helped so-and-so get a job. That was just the goal. But in between, I was doing all this other work, right? But I'm a very black and white guy. So I said, well, the outcome is getting the job. And I said, no, I'm not working on resumes and cover letters. I'm not duplicating any of the services you're having. It's just, I don't know how to put it in this hypothetical way type thing. So anyways, so we got to get started, get focused. We got to avoid procrastinating, which we all love to do. And one thing that I also learned that I was during a positive psychology class was a perfectionist. I in no way thought I was a perfectionist. My nickname by my parents was Keith, I'm gonna Gellhorn, because I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do all these things that some of them would stick, but the other cajillion things that I said I was gonna do never happened. So that was kind of my nickname. But yeah, perfectionists, just like they wait till the last minute. And then when it's just about ready to go, but it's not perfect, they don't shoot it out. So Kendra, who's sitting around on this call in the background, is a very much witness to that with me, because I have about, man, I don't even know. I basically opened up my Google documents and I said, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's 99% done, but just hasn't clicked, send. So she literally wrote 2 books for me in 2 weeks. And not only wrote the books, did the editing, built everything up, all the stuff. She found like the ISBN number. You need to create a book cover. I'm like, never thought of that. She figured out a publisher. She like everything, right? All right to the minute details that I just like, my goal was to write a book. It wasn't to do any of the rest of the stuff or publish it or anything, right? So there's that part of it. And then also that emotional management piece in between, right? So focus on like working when you're in it, like take advantage when you're on your highs. So when you hit your lows, you're not you're not doing as much. So right now, like I'm literally working 20-hour days and I'm killing it, right? I am getting so much done. I'm landing deals left, right, and center. I'm also very cognizant of the fact that in about 3 weeks, when daylight savings time hits, I'm probably going to fall off the frickin' wagon, right? I actually use a mood tracker called Dailyo, and we actually use similar stuff in my coaching program called Coach Accountable to track my moods. I track my moods every single day, and I've done it for 3 years, and I can predict. So I can predict when I'm going to fall off the wagon. November's one, mid-February, March is another one, and every single year is May. And the reason I fall off in May is that's when I'm done with the students. So I go from very structured, like I'm not joking that from 8:30 in the morning till 5:30 in the afternoon, I go 8:30 to 9:15, 9:30 to 10:15, 10:30 to 11:15, all the way through the day. I take an hour lunch because I have to, and otherwise I'll totally go bonkers. And then I close my laptop at 5:30. Then I jump immediately on social media and just keep cruising through that, because I got to take advantage of it while I got the juice, right? And the one thing I just wanted to kind of mention on all of it was like every program, quote unquote, traditional program has to have a start and a finish, right? And that's something that's always bugged me. I was like, it's not like it just goes away because the program ends, right? But that's the way it's kind of tended to be. So the stuff that I'm creating now doesn't finish. You can stay as long as you freaking want. I mean, not if it's funded, of course, but I'm creating a multi-level. So the people who can afford to pay out of pocket, we give it very, very, very much sliding scale rate. The people who can, they'll pay out of pocket and they'll do their thing, and it'll kind of balance itself out, right? As I grow programs from here on out, right? So my whole goal, I'm not a money-driven person, but I also don't like living in poverty. So if anybody, when you're getting your businesses up and running, don't sell yourself short. So Yeah, stick with your guns. Like the worst thing you can do is come in and say, oh yeah, I'll do things for $5. Like Lee, I'm going to call you out a bit, but Lee creates these things and they're freaking amazing, right? She's doing like chainsaw art now. And she's like, worth $100. I was like, $100, man. How many hours went into that, right? It should be like $300, right? Any last parting words, Hannah? How do people get a hold of you and all that jazz?
Yes. Well, I know half the group already, and I talk to them
there you
probably
go.
every week, and some that I've known from the past. No, it was always great to see everybody, and yeah, we'll continue to look at ways to get people together, and we do that within our group. But it's nice when you can connect other entrepreneurs in the same space. So I'm sure that's going to happen at some point. But life's a business, so you got to figure it out.
You got to figure it out, right?
Everything figure outable. So thanks, folks. I will see most of you later. Thanks, Keith.
Absolutely. Take care. Yeah. So just on the parting way out here, again, my company's called ADDvocacy. You can reach us at ADDvocacy.org. If you go up in the top right-hand corner, there's a spot where you can book a call with me. It's totally free. It's just a needs assessment. So, I just get your story, right? So I want to know about you coming up through like elementary, junior high, high school, what you've been doing since, what exactly it is that you're looking to do. I can typically find funding and or resources in general. It's never 100%, but in general, for, like I said, post-secondary students, 100% funded. So that's like $1,900 a semester is fully funded. So if you know any post-secondary students who need some help, that's I just got that funding secured August 1st. Also, people are kind of unemployed, underemployed, struggling in the careers. Again, I do quite a bit of work with Nova Scotia Works locations. It's never guaranteed that there's funding, but if it is, typically you'll get funding for people on a one-to-one basis between 12 to 16 weeks, give or take. Coached hundreds of people out of Nova Scotia Works locations over the years. And then on the entrepreneurial front, like I said, we're doing our little pilot and we are shopping that around. So if you know of any other organizations who might be interested, or like what you hear, feel free to be vocal and say, hey, we want to be part of that little group. And how are we going to make that happen? So I welcome that as well. Anyways, thanks so much for participating. I'm going to turn off the live now, and we will connect with you guys later.